You walk slowly along a dusty path, under the fading evening sky. Your steps quiet, your breath steady, the sound of your sandals brushing the dirt barely audible. The air still carries a bit of heat from the day, and somewhere in the distance, a shepherd's whistle floats across the olive trees. You're not alone. Up ahead, Jesus walks just a few paces before you, his robe catching the last glimmers of daylight, his pace unhurried. The others are with you too, each caught in their own thoughts. But tonight feels different. Tonight, you are waiting for something. A whisper, a moment, a teaching not in the form of thunder, but in something quieter. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I'm creating here. And let me know in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it there? Now, turn off the lights, let your fan hum gently in the background, and let's begin tonight's journey. He didn't announce it with trumpets. There were no angels, no booming voice from heaven, just a simple request from one of his disciples. Lord, teach us to pray. You might expect him to launch into a sermon, maybe a list of do's and don'ts, but instead, he stops walking. He turns to you, yes, to you, and smiles, not the grand, glowing kind you see in paintings, but a soft one, like he knows something about your heart you've never spoken out loud. He kneels in the dust. The others form a circle around him. You follow. And then he prays, not loudly, not theatrically. He doesn't use big words or grand gestures. He says something simple, direct. You almost don't catch it because it's so quiet. Our Father. Just that beginning feels strange. Not my Father, not the Almighty, but our. It feels personal, like you're being invited into something. Not a ceremony, not a tradition, a relationship. This small moment, barefoot in the dirt, kneeling beside the Son of God, starts to shift how you think about prayer. It's not about location. It's not about impressing anyone. It's about connection. A line between you and the divine, drawn without ink, made of intention and honesty. Interestingly, historical records show that during the time of Jesus, Jewish prayer had become increasingly formalized, tied to temple rituals, repeated scripts, and very specific hours. The further religion institutionalized prayer, the more Jesus simplified it. And here's the strange truth. In Roman times, public speaking, especially in religion, was considered a form of performance art. People clapped for good prayers. It was theatrical, which makes Jesus's whisper of a prayer all the more radical. Some scholars still debate, was Jesus intentionally rejecting religious hierarchy with this moment? Or was he showing that prayer belongs to everyone, not just priests in robes? But there's another curious detail historians often miss. Archaeological digs near Galilean villages revealed household prayer altars with no formal inscriptions, just smooth stones, often hidden in corners. It seems the people Jesus walked among were already whispering their hopes in secret, away from temple eyes. So when he taught them a quiet, personal prayer, maybe he was simply validating what their hearts already knew. And what does that mean for you tonight? That even in your softest, most tired moment, when your eyes are half closed, your mind drifting, your faith shaky, you can still speak. Not out loud, maybe not even in words, just a thought, a longing, a sigh. That's prayer too. By the way, Did you know Cleopatra used to sleep surrounded by scented oils and rose petals to help her dreams reach the gods faster? And here you are, in pajamas, talking straight to the creator of the universe. Times change. Your eyes are adjusting to the dim light now, shadows dancing gently across the walls as the hum of your fan merges with your breath. Outside, the wind shifts the trees with a soft rustle, like fabric brushing against stone. You're no longer beside the fire in Galilee, but you're still with him, in spirit, carried along by the hush of his voice. Jesus looks up after finishing the prayer. He doesn't speak immediately. It's as if he's letting the silence settle, like flour after it's been sifted. Then he says something unexpected. When you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. It's a strange instruction, isn't it? In a world where temples were public, prayer was performance, and faith meant spectacle, he tells you to hide, not from fear, but from the noise, the distractions, the pressure to impress. You might be thinking of your own room now, your bed, a lamp, maybe a cluttered nightstand or a chair that never seems to get used for sitting. That space, ordinary, quiet, is holy ground tonight. In first-century Judea, the average home was made of stone with a single main room. Privacy wasn't easy, which makes this advice even more intriguing. What door was there to close? What space could really be your own? Well, here's a curious historical detail. Some homes had a small storage room called a tamion, often windowless, used to store grain or valuables. It was usually the only part of the house with a door you could actually shut. Scholars now believe this might be what Jesus meant, not a symbolic space, but a literal one, a pantry, a prayer closet. The idea still stirs debate. Were his words metaphorical or literal? Did he mean a quiet heart or an actual room, or both? Historians still argue over whether this instruction was revolutionary or simply practical, an encouragement to commune with God without witnesses. But think of the irony. In a world where religious leaders prayed loudly in the marketplace, Jesus suggested whispering in a pantry. And that's where it gets really interesting. In the ancient world, secrecy and privacy were associated with intimacy, often in romance or politics. But here, Jesus repurposes secrecy into something sacred. Not shameful, but sacred. It's almost as if he's saying, the most powerful conversations with God aren't the ones people hear. They're the ones no one ever does. Tonight, maybe your own tamion is a phone screen dimmed to night mode, or a pair of earbuds blocking out the world. You don't need incense, or robes, or a polished speech, just a willingness to close the door, literally or metaphorically, and be present. Now, here's a weird historical fact. In medieval monasteries, monks had designated silent hours where no one could speak, not even to pray aloud. They believed God listened more attentively to unspoken thoughts. It makes you wonder, have we gotten too loud with our faith? You lean back now, your pillow cooling slightly beneath your cheek. Jesus isn't telling you to escape the world, just to step back enough to hear the quiet parts again. And here's a small, unspoken joke he might have made if he were with us now. If your prayer sounds like a TikTok trend, maybe close the door a little tighter. The message is simple, yet it echoes through time. Privacy breeds honesty. Silence makes room for sincerity. And tonight, that's enough.
Now, the room feels even darker, but not in a way that frightens you. It's a quiet kind of dark, like being swaddled in a blanket or tucked inside a cathedral just after the last candle has been blown out. You're still with him, and his next words arrive like a breeze slipping through stone corridors. "Do not keep on babbling like pagans," he says, voice steady but kind, "for they think they will be heard because of their many words." Wait, babbling? Like who? You blink, thinking of the noisy street preachers or the rehearsed, repetitive chants echoing from temples outside Israel. There's something gently humorous about the idea. People stacking up syllables like bricks, hoping they'll build a staircase high enough for God to hear them. But Jesus isn't laughing at devotion. He's pointing out something deeper, that prayer is not a performance, it's a conversation. The Romans, for instance, believed the more exact and elaborate your incantation, the more likely the gods would grant your wish. If you forgot a word, start over. If you sneezed in the middle, bad omen. Some ancient tablets even contained full lists of backup prayers, just in case the first one didn't register. Sounds a bit like resending an email because you forgot the attachment, doesn't it? So when Jesus says, "Don't babble," he's offering freedom from superstition. Prayer isn't a code to crack or a spell to perfect. It's more like texting your dearest friend late at night. Short, messy, honest. And they always read it, typos and all. Here's a strange historical tidbit. In ancient Egypt, there were professional prayers. People paid to recite prayers on behalf of others, even for the dead. One papyrus suggests a man hired 10 such specialists to ensure his afterlife was well negotiated. Imagine outsourcing your bedtime prayers to a freelance team in Cairo. But Jesus flips that logic. He says, you don't need anyone to speak for you. You don't need to impress. You don't need filler. Just speak. Just be. And here's where it gets a little more mysterious. Some scholars suggest that Jesus is hinting at a radical truth. God already knows what you need before you ask. So then, why pray at all? That's the academic debate still lingering. Is prayer for God's benefit or yours? Is it an act of divine persuasion or self-revelation? There's no settled answer, but maybe that's the point. Prayer isn't about changing God's mind. It's about quieting yours. Your breathing slows. The ceiling fades. You're floating on the edge of sleep now. Not quite dreaming, but not quite awake either. And Jesus? He's leaning in closer, voice low enough that you barely catch the words. Your Father knows what you need. He doesn't say what that is. Not yet. But maybe the beauty of the night prayer is that you don't have to know either. You can release it, whatever it is, into the quiet. One last light joke before the silence deepens. If Jesus were here now, watching you scrolling through comment sections instead of praying, he might smile and say, "Not every post needs a reply. Not every thought needs an audience." You chuckle, just a little. And then for a long moment, there is nothing at all. Just breath, stillness, surrender. You don't realize it, but your fingers have relaxed, your jaw unclenched. The night has worked its way into your bones like music humming through a floorboard. Jesus is still there, but this time he's not walking, he's standing still, like he's about to reveal something important. And then, with no build-up, no thunder, he simply begins, "This, then, is how you should pray."
And what follows becomes the most famous prayer in human history. Words whispered in hospital rooms, in war trenches, at weddings, over the dying. Words inked onto scrolls, carved into stone, and even, believe it or not, tattooed in Aramaic onto the backs of modern-day NBA players. But in this quiet moment, you're hearing it like it's brand new. Our Father in heaven. Wait, our Father? Not my? That's your first clue. This prayer isn't just personal, it's communal. You're not alone. Somewhere, right now, someone else is whispering it too. A grandmother in Arkansas, a prisoner in Kenya, a kid in the Philippines. You're part of something bigger than your own story. And then, hallowed be your name. Not make my dreams come true, or fix my problems. No, the first request is about honor, not help. It's like saying, before anything else, I recognize who you are. There's a certain reverence there, and also a strange, comforting intimacy. You see, in the ancient world, gods were distant, high on mountains, hidden in fire, not fatherly, not near. But here, Jesus is inviting you to imagine God not as a thunderbolt-wielding judge, but as your Abba, a term so tender, it's closer to Papa than Father. In fact, scholars still debate whether it was even appropriate to use such a casual word for God. Was Jesus breaking protocol, they wonder? Some say yes. Others argue he was showing a new way entirely. Either way, you can feel it. This prayer isn't just instruction, it's invitation. A brief history flash. In the 14th century, during the Black Death, priests across Europe encouraged the Lord's Prayer as the final words for the dying. Why? Because it was short, familiar, and held everything essential. Even when breath was short, the soul could still speak. And here's a strange fact to tuck into your brain like a bedtime mint. The prayer has been translated into more than 2,000 languages, more than any other passage in literature. Yes, more than Shakespeare, more than Harry Potter. So when you whisper it tonight, in your language, in your own voice, it joins a global chorus, a kind of spiritual Wi-Fi connecting hearts across time zones and centuries. Your eyelids grow heavier. You try to remember the next line, but Jesus is already ahead of you. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. He's not asking you to escape earth, he's asking you to invite heaven in. A sudden image, not clouds and harps, but laughter over dinner tables, strangers forgiving each other, justice rolling like rivers. You smile and Jesus smiles with you. Maybe this prayer isn't a formula. Maybe it's a doorway. But even doorways need a key, and he's just handed you one. So tonight, you don't pray to control, you pray to connect. And that, perhaps, is the beginning of peace. You're drifting now, not away from the moment, but deeper into it. The silence around you has shape, like velvet shadows in an old chapel. You hear your breath. The room holds still. And then the words return. Give us today our daily bread. It's so humble, isn't it? Not give us riches, or make us successful, or smite Steve from accounting. Just bread, enough for today. This part of the prayer grounds you. After all that sacred mystery, here's something earthy. Flour, water, salt, warm crust. A reminder that even the divine sees your hunger and says, yes, that matters too. In ancient Palestine, bread wasn't a side dish. It was survival. Without it, you didn't eat. Simple as that. And Jesus' audience? Mostly poor, mostly wondering where their next meal would come from. So this prayer wasn't metaphorical. It was urgent. Fast forward to the 15th century, when Europe was rocked by crop failure and famine. Monks began baking bread for entire villages. They called it panis caritatis, the bread of charity, a reminder that faith is never just personal. It has a crust. It feeds others. You wonder, what does your daily bread look like? Maybe it's actual food. Maybe it's a moment of silence before work. A message from someone who remembered your name. In a world that pushes you to think in years and decades, Jesus is asking you to think in one-day portions. It's strange, though. There's no mention of tomorrow. Give us today, not next week's security, not a 10-year plan. Just today. Just bread. There's a whisper of something radical here, maybe even rebellious. You live in a time of endless options, constant upgrades, and delivery apps that bring cake to your door at 2 a.m. But here, Jesus is inviting you into enoughness, into the peaceful rebellion of being satisfied. Here's an odd little fact. In 2013, a group of German researchers recreated bread from a 2,500-year-old Egyptian recipe using yeast scraped from ancient pots. They called it resurrection loaf. No joke. You smile at the thought. Even bread has stories that outlive empires. The prayer continues, seamlessly. And forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. This one, it cuts deeper. It's not just about receiving grace. It's about giving it. Jesus doesn't let you stop with forgive me. He links it, tangles it into how you treat others. It's unnerving. Beautiful, but unnerving. You think of someone. That person. Yeah, you know who. The one who didn't say sorry, the one who should have. And Jesus says, forgive them anyway. Not because they deserve it, but because you're tired of carrying the weight. A historian once noted that during the reign of King Louis IX of France, public forgiveness rituals were common. Neighbors would kiss each other's cheeks in church to show they had no lingering grudges. It was messy, awkward, deeply French, but kind of profound. And the strange truth is, forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. It unhooks the barbed wire you wrapped around your own heart. There's an academic debate, of course. Some theologians argue that this part of the prayer implies a conditional forgiveness. God only forgives you if you forgive others. Others counter, no. God's forgiveness empowers you to forgive. And there you are again, caught between mercy and mystery. But maybe Jesus wants it that way. You shift in bed. You let the names fall away. You breathe again. The bread for today, the grace for today. No more, no less. And somehow, it feels like enough. Now the night leans in a little closer. Your body is soft against the mattress, every muscle just shy of sleep. And yet, your mind is sharp, alert in the dark, waiting for the final lines. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. You say it slowly, each word deliberate, like walking barefoot across candlelit stone. This is where the prayer shifts. Earlier, it was about bread, forgiveness, daily things. But here, Jesus draws the curtain back on something more primal. Temptation, evil. It sounds heavy, and it is. But notice what's missing. There's no mention of fighting, no swords, no speeches, just deliverance. You're not asked to defeat evil, just not to walk into it alone. In 14th century England, during the height of plague and paranoia, villagers would carve these words, "Libera nos a malo," into doorways and wells, "Deliver us from evil." To them, it wasn't poetry. It was protection, a whispered spell against the darkness. And you wonder, what's your darkness? Maybe it's the glowing screen at 2:30 a.m. that promises connection but leaves you lonelier. Maybe it's the voice in your head that always says, "You're not enough." Maybe it's that subtle itch for control over people, outcomes, even God. Temptation isn't always flashy. Sometimes it's just a shortcut that feels almost right. Odd fact, researchers once discovered that people are more likely to lie in the evening. They called it the morality depletion effect. The theory? By night, your mental resources are drained. You're more likely to slip. So maybe Jesus placed this line here, at the end, for a reason. A gentle guardrail, a hand on your shoulder before the road curves. The Greek word used in the original text, peirasmos, can mean both temptation and trial, which raises a thorny question. Is God the one testing us, or simply guiding us through the test? Scholars are still at it. Some argue the phrasing is poetic contradiction, asking God not to do something God would never do anyway. Others say it acknowledges a truth we all feel. Life does test us. We just don't want to be left alone in the fire. And so, the prayer ends not with triumph, but with trust. Deliver us. Not make me invincible. Not help me win. Just carry me through. It's vulnerable. It's human. And in that honesty, divine. You breathe out. This time, it's deeper. The room is dark, but you're not afraid. The night is long, but you're not alone. And now, as you turn your face into the pillow, the final words return. Not from the page, but from somewhere deeper. Not a command, not even a request. Just a soft invitation. Amen. So be it. Let it be. Let the world turn. Let your worries float like dust in moonlight. Let the breath in your chest be proof enough of grace. Let this night do what only night can. Let God be God. And you be still.